Chapter 34. Now. About a half an hour later, they pulled up in front of an unassuming ranch-style house at the end of a cul-de-sac in a town Annie had never heard of. The mailbox was in the shape of a largemouth bass. "Where the hell are we?" Mac muttered from the driver's seat. "We are at the address Estelle gave me this morning, home of her cousin Sylvia, and those two runaways better still be here," Annie said, hopping down from the truck. Mac did the same, and they made their way down the uncleared path to the door. Icy snow crunched beneath their boots. There was a festive wreath on the door, and a welcome. Matt, that read "Happy Holidays." Annie found that encouraging. Someone was in there, and they'd at least been around recently enough to decorate for Christmas. She rang the bell, and they waited, crammed together on the small landing at the top of the cement stairs. Max smelled like spiced sex appeal and mixed emotions. It was wildly distracting. "Nobody's coming," he hissed. "They'll come," she insisted. "This is where they said they would be, they better come." She did not have time to go searching any more small towns today. She rang the bell again. Mac glared at the door like maybe that would make it open sooner. Finally it opened and revealed a very small, very old woman on the other side. "Hello," Annie said. "Are you Sylvia? We're here to pick up Estelle and Dot." The woman blinked. Dear God, she'd better know where they are. "What was that, dear?" she said, cocking her head. "Estelle and Dot, are they here?" Mac yelled loud enough that Annie was sure half the neighborhood knew who they were looking for. She jabbed him in the arm with her elbow. He jabbed her back while continuing to smile at the old lady. The woman's face lit up. "Oh yes, they're here. Come on in." She opened the door, and Annie breathed a sigh of relief before following her into the house. If Estelle hadn't been here, she seriously didn't know what she would have done, besides put out a missing persons report and possibly find another woman to dress up as Nana for the wedding. Maybe Logan would never have noticed. "I was worried you were those terrible people that are always trying to get me to join their cult," Sylvia said with a cheerful smile as she led them through her house. "Oh. Yikes," was all Annie could think to say. Mac chuckled from behind her. "Estelle's lucky I let her stay the night," Sylvia went on. Her pace was a slow shuffle, and they hadn't made it past the incredibly floral sitting room yet. "You know, her father and mine had a horrible falling out. Years ago, that was. Probably sometime in the 1800s, Mac muttered, and Annie tried to jab him again, but he was ready for it and dodged her. "But I couldn't very well put her out in the snow. Plus she brought her lovely friend Dot, so here we are. That was very ... charitable of you," Annie said, and Sylvia beamed at her. They found the missing women in a bright sunroom in the back of the house. "There they are," Sylvia announced. "You better not have taken anything while I was gone," she said, shooting Estelle a glare. "There's nothing here to steal," Estelle said, glaring right back. "At least had the courtesy to greet Annie and Mac. We are so sorry you had to come all this way to get us. It's my fault. I left the headlights on when we got here." She got up from her seat on the white wicker furniture where an ancient-looking dog was snoozing next to her. She gave Annie a big hug. "It's no problem at all," Annie chirped. "Even though the whole thing had been a rather large problem, we were just worried about you." "I told Henry where we were going," Estelle said. "That man never listens." "Can I get you something to drink?" Sylvia asked, directing her question to Mac. She looked extra tiny, standing beside him, her head burly coming up to his bicep. "No, I'm all right. Thanks. We really need to get back on the road." "You sure? Such a tall drink of water, like you must be thirsty or hungry." "I could get you some cookies," Estelle scoffed from her perch on a rocking chair in the corner. "Cookies? Is that what you're calling those dry bricks you tried serving us?" "See? This is the sort of behavior her branch of the family is known for." Sylvia wrapped a hand around Mad's arm. "You remind me of my dead husband," she added, gazing up at him. He looked to Annie for help, but she was still too busy trying to figure out what the hell was going on, and why they were all here. "Well, if you've finished your business, Estelle, we really do need to get back so we're not late for the wedding." She wanted to scream, "You know, the wedding for your one and only grandson who you raised, and who loves you more than anything, that wedding?" But she kept the smile pinned to her face, and avoided Mac's panicked stare as Sylvia tucked herself dozer into his side. Although she fully intended to tease him about his new girlfriend later. "We'll be done with our business as soon as Sylvia forks over my rightful property." "Your property, how dare you?" Sylvia said, trembling with anger. She kept her grip on Mac's arm as she spoke. "That heirloom has been in our family for generations, And it's as much mine as it is yours. Estelle huffed, rising from her chair. Be that as it may, I have a grandson who needs it, and you don't. Just because my grandkids didn't want it, doesn't mean I should pass it on to you after you come storming in here like you own the place. They've been having this argument since we got here, whispered to Annie. I really didn't know what I was getting myself into when I agreed to drive her here. I thought it was a simple errand to pick up something for the wedding. She duped you, Annie whispered back. Totally. T've been calling you for months, Estelle went on. You could have given it to me weeks ago and we wouldn't be in this situation. Sylvia shrugged. I didn't get your messages. Ha, Estelle said, coming closer. Like my father always said, your family is full of liars. Sylvia gasped, and Annie felt like she was a side character on a daytime soap opera. Max shifted so he was in between the two cousins. If he had to break up a fight between these senior ladies, Annie would lose it. That definitely wasn't on her wedding bingo card. Ladies, Max said, flashing his most charming smile. I'm sure we can figure this out. We're all mature adults here, right? He winked at Sylvia. She giggled. Okay, so maybe he was a really good groomsman. Annie had to give him that. Sylvia blushed, patting a hand to her white curls. Well, maybe we could figure something out, she said. You come with me. She took Mac by the hand and led him out of the room. He glanced back once, his eyes wide. And Annie shrugged and wiggled her fingers in a wave goodbye. If he wanted to play the charmer, this was what he got. I really am sorry about all this, Dot said again. But Estelle was still fuming. It's not our fault the old wretch won't give me what's mine. Annie patted her shoulder. I'm sure we'll get it and we'll be back in plenty of time for the wedding, okay? Everything's going to be fine. The old dog let out a long sigh. Annie felt the same way. What is this heirloom anyway? And why is it so important? She asked while they waited for Mac and Sylvia to return. It's good luck, Estelle said. It has been in my family for years, and every bride that's worn it on her wedding night has had a long and happy marriage, so it's important. I had to come get it. Team sure Jeannie and Logan will have a long and happy marriage, no matter what, Dot said. Well, I'd like to have a little extra insurance. Did you wear it? Annie asked, still wondering what the heck they were talking about. Jeannie already had her dress and shoes and jewelry for the day. What else was there? I didn't get to wear it, Estelle said, because Sylvia damed she lost it after her wedding. I didn't push it at the time, but Logan's too important to me for him to not have it. For his bride. Annie disregarded how this whole thing had appended her day and threatened the wedding. Then she could almost see how it was a loving gesture from a grandmother to the grandson she'd raised. Almost. We're back, Sylvia said, shuffling into the room. She had a wrapped parcel under one arm and Mac's hand in hers. I'm only giving this to you because Dot has been a lovely guest, and Mac here really made my day. If it had been only you on my doorstep, I would have left you outside. Estelle huffed and held out her hand. Just give it to me. Already. Estelle, Annie hissed. Be nice. Maybe if she had been nice from the start, this whole thing wouldn't have happened, but Annie kept that part to herself. She didn't know what history these two old women had, but she was not about to get into it right now. Estelle rolled her eyes like a teenager. But she cleared her throat and tried again. Please, may we have the package so we can be on our way? Sylvia hesitated but then handed it over, and Annie breathed a sigh of relief. Thank you for your hospitality, Dot said, leaning down to give the woman a hug. You can come back any time, Sylvia said, patting her on the back. And that goes for you too, she said, looking up at Mac. He leaned down and she gave him a little peck on the cheek. Thanks, Sylvia. We really appreciate your help, he said, giving her one more squeeze. Okay, gang. We've got a wedding to get to, Annie said, herding everyone out of the house. The dog finally woke up and barked as they closed the door behind them. They all piled into Mac's enormous SUV truck thing, and before they were even back on the highway, Annie had to know. So, what is it? She asked. Estelle unwrapped the package and held up some sort of fabric or garment. Annie still wasn't sure what she was looking at. She turned around so she could get a better look at it. But what is it? It's a nightgown, the old woman replied, and Annie nearly choked on her spit. It was a nightgown that was probably older than the country itself. The material was yellowed, and it had long sleeves and a high neck, and would probably reach down to Jeannie's ankles. It was an actual nightmare. It was what an angry ghost would wear while haunting an old Victorian manor. Wow, was all Annie could reply. She couldn't meet Dot's eyes. She was currently very clearly trying not to laugh. You want Jeannie to wear that tonight? Of course, Estelle said. And if she does, she and Logan will have a long and happy marriage. Guaranteed. She beamed, and Annie had to turn around before she started laughing. She could see Dot's shoulders beginning to shake. They had come all this way to retrieve an ancient nightie. Annie was pretty sure that if Jeannie did wear it, the thing would disintegrate as soon as Logan touched her. The thought had her snorting as she tried to stifle her laughter. Wait a minute, Max said, slowly piecing things together from his position in the driver's seat. Did we just drive to New Hampshire to pick up some magic old-timey lingerie? That was when Annie and Dot completely lost it, descending into hysterical giggles. Even Estelle started to chuckle. I guess I forgot how old it was, she said. I'm not sure it's going to hold up to another wedding night. The group laughed even harder at that. Annie was doubled over in the passenger seat, her sides aching. Can I please be there when you give it to them? She asked between giggles. I can't wait to see the look on Logan's face when he sees it. Jeannie's so sweet she probably pretends she likes it, Max said, and the group broke down again. My God, this is insane, Annie said, wiping the tears from her eyes. It really did seem like a good idea at the time, Estelle said, patted her on her shoulder. It was a lovely idea. I'm sure Logan and Jeannie will appreciate the gesture. Yeah, and silver lining. Mac almost got a girlfriend out of the deal, Annie said. Sylvia was a very handsome woman, he said straight-faced, although I didn't love the part where she wanted to tell me how loving her dead husband used to be. Annie giggled. Big shoes to fill, she said, nudging Mac's arm where it rested on the center console. He shook his head and smiled at her. I'm not sure I could keep up with Sylvia, that's for sure. It was suddenly quiet in the back seat and Annie glanced back. Smiled. What's going on between you two? Something's different. Nothing's different, Annie snapped. No, shook her head. Something's definitely different. Her eyes lit up. You two finally had sex, didn't you? Thank God, Estelle said, rolling her eyes. Wait, what day is it? I might have won the pool. Annie's face flushed hot. She couldn't believe she had to have this conversation while trapped in a vehicle with Mac. We didn't have sex. Everything is the same between us. Nothing is going on, okay? Both women looked at her like they didn't believe a single word she was saying. Now, Annie, that's not entirely true. Mac's voice was teasing and devious. He wouldn't. Don't you dare, she said. He held her gaze for a second before turning his eyes back to the road. Oh, that's right. I forgot I gave you one more day. One more day for what? Estelle piped up. One more day to keep pretending there's nothing going on between us, he said, and Annie smacked him hard on the shoulder. Dops, he said with a chuckle. Did I say too much? One knew it, said triumphantly, sitting back in her seat. One can always sense these things. Annie wanted to point out that the woman hadn't known when one of her employees had had a decades-long crush on her, but unfortunately, she'd been taught to respect her elders. Wait, did I win the bet or not? Estelle asked. You didn't win, Annie said, eyes straight ahead on the road. Nobody won. Ain't that the truth? Mac muttered from beside her. And at this point Annie didn't know what winning looked like anymore.